Today we're going to be talking about the new BMW R1300 GS for 2024. Stick around. Hey, this is Chad with BeGoneForGood. We do videos all about adventure motorcycling, from the bikes we ride, trips we take, tips, tricks, tutorials, everything under the sun when it comes to adventure motorcycling. You'll find it on this channel. If you like that sort of thing, hit subscribe down below, hit that bell so you get notifications every time we upload a new video. Today, I want to offer just a couple of thoughts about the new BMW R1300 now, GS, that's going to be coming out in 2024. Some of the specs that are on there, kind of the evolution, what I'm seeing with it, and just some basic thoughts. It's a beautiful bike, and that's where I want to start first off. First off, this bike looks amazing. They've got new colorways on there. There's a build your own feature on the website that allows you to kind of stack in different comfort things and enduros and performance, different capabilities of this bike, so you can really customize it to what you're looking for. Now, the GS has been the gold standard for a long time, ever since we saw Ewan and Charlie leave back in 2003 for their long way round adventure, probably before then, but that's when it really hit its zeitgeist, and everybody recognized it. It became the greatest selling adventure bike around the world, has been for years and years and years. And there's a reason for that. It is an extraordinarily well-made bike. The shaft drive that's on there, all of the mechanics, the cantilever suspension, the ride height, all of the bells and whistles for heated grips, seat grip, or seat warmers, just everything about that bike, it screams luxury and top of the line, and it is a phenomenal bike. This one is no different. It is still setting the bar for what is the premier adventure bike out there. Now, the thing that I've noticed, and the thing that I kind of went back and took a look at, the initial bikes that Ewan and Charlie left on back in 2003, the GS 1150s, had 85 horsepower and a wet weight of, let's call it about 549, somewhere in the low to mid 500s, okay? Since that point, that weight has stayed relatively similar. We're talking within probably 20, 30 pounds one way or the other. It dropped a little bit initially in the 04, 05, 06 area. We got down to like right around 500, went up a little bit as we got into the 2017s, 2016s. We're talking like in the 570s, but basically stayed kind of in that range for most of that time. What changed though is the horsepower. So the horsepower has been going up. We went to 98 horsepower, 100 horsepower, all the way through probably the 2010s. We went up to 110 horsepower. In 2013, we went up to 125. We are now up with the new 2024 all the way up to 145 horsepower and a 523-pound bike. So what I am offering here and the ideas that I'm thinking about when it comes to the GS, the gold standard. Now remember, this is supposed to be the quintessential adventure bike that is out there, right? This is the best that it gets. The problem is that as technology is advancing and as materials are getting lighter and we're better with performance and kind of eking the last drop of capability out of these bikes, those weights should be going down precipitously, right? But instead, what these companies are doing, and it's happening with Honda. I ride a Honda Africa Twin. The exact same thing's happening. We're going from 1000s to 1100s. Now, a lot of this has to do with the Euro 5 standards that came out and had to be hit by 22, right? And you saw a lot of these companies advancing before them. What the Euro 5 standards said is essentially that there was a certain amount of emissions that had to occur given the horsepower that was happening, right? So what everybody did is kind of just bump up their horsepower capability so they had more emissions capability in their arena, right? They could have more emissions because they had the horsepower to warrant it. So that made a lot of the changes there, and this is a little bit of government putting their thumb on the scale here. But we're also seeing these giant jumps in horsepower and capability, and the bike in 03 was good enough to take people around the world, good enough to be the best-selling adventure bike at that time. And it just keeps growing. It just keeps rising. We keep raising the ceiling of what these bikes can do as far as power is concerned, without instead looking in the opposite direction and saying, why don't we drop weight? Why don't we shave size on these things? And the reason for that, I think, is because you're seeing this mid-range group of bikes come up. You're seeing the KTM 890s. You're seeing the BMW 800s that are falling into that category. You're seeing the T700 from Yamaha filling in that middle category, which to me seems more like an actual adventure bike. Now, if anybody is like me and has to ride 1,000 miles, 1,500 miles to get to anything that would qualify as an adventure in the States, then maybe those 1,000 cc bikes make sense, because you've got to get there first, and that demands hours and hours and hours of road riding, where the BMW, the Africa Twin, where even the heavier KTMs are going to do a lot better. They've got wider seats, they can cruise at lower RPMs, like all of that stuff makes sense for road riding. But it doesn't make sense for adventure. Once you get onto the trail, the last thing you want is a 523, a 550 pound bike. That doesn't make sense, even if that horsepower is tripled or doubled in that time. We don't need double the horsepower, because you're only doing 30, maybe 40, 50 miles an hour at the most off-road, but they're building them for people to ride on the roads. And this is where I think we're going to have some changes in our industry. I think we're going to see the GS maybe fall off of that leaderboard as the greatest adventure bike out there, because even though it is billed as an adventure bike, it is becoming less and less of that. What it is becoming is BMW's version of the Honda Goldwing. It's becoming a touring bike. It's becoming the sort of bike that everybody can get on and ride comfortably for thousands of miles without ever hitting a stitch of dirt. And I think there's something a little bit sad about that. I mean, it's great. It's going to grow the industry. Everybody's going to get on an adventure bike because they're the best bikes that are out there right now. They're better than cruisers. They're better than crotch rockets. They are more comfortable than just about anything else you can ride, especially as we're building them with lower and lower RPM and cruising capabilities and more creature comforts, which is what the GS is becoming. It is becoming the Goldwing of the adventure market. And I think before too long, you are going to see that bike unseated as an actual adventure bike by one of these middle of the range ones that's coming up, that is going to be the choice for anybody who actually wants to get off-road. You'll see less and less GSs out there. You'll see more and more KTMs, T7s, maybe the Transalp, maybe a bunch of other competitors that are going to be in that category, that are going to be light enough to take off-road, have more than ample enough horsepower to take off-road, will be the sort of thing you could do road miles on, but wouldn't necessarily be the most comfortable version of it, instead of grabbing these gigantic road hogs that seemingly every company is also putting out to fill a customer base that probably will never see a rock ledge in the course of their bike's life. Those are just a couple of thoughts I have. That is where I see the new GS landing. I see that being a bike that is no longer an adventure bike, is no longer going to be considered an adventure bike, because smaller, lighter, just as capable bikes are going to be taking that name away from it, is going to be taking that title away from it. And maybe I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, if you ride a GS, still think it's the best adventure bike out there, leave me a comment down below. If you've seen the 2024, think it's gorgeous, have any idea what your colorway would be, write that down below as well. Thank you very much for listening. I am all about arguments. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about, absolutely leave that comment and we will have it out down below, because I'm sticking to my guns on this one. So again, this is Chad with BeGoneForGood. We do videos all about adventure motorcycling, including starting arguments about the latest GS. Thank you very much for watching. If you want more of this, subscribe, hit that bell so you get notifications. And always, 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 no matter what we think, always remember, the adventure starts with you, up here and in here. And I'll see you in the next one.